Imagine a world where a bishop leads an army into battle, a place where knights ride horses adorned with feathers and shields, and castles are besieged for months. This story is not from a fantasy novel. It's a true tale from the 14th century, a time when chivalry and warfare were intertwined in ways that seem almost unbelievable today. This is the story of the Bishop of Norwich, a man who dreamed of glory but ended up in disgrace, and of the Duke of Coucy, a knight whose cunning and bravery would shape the fate of nations. In the year 1383, England and France were deep in the 100 Years' War, a conflict that had been raging for decades. The Bishop of Norwich, a man named Henry Despenser, was not your typical church leader. He was young, brash, and more interested in fighting than in praying. Despite his lack of experience, he convinced the English king to support his ambitious plan to invade France and help the Flemish rebels who were fighting against French control. Despenser gathered a force of about 5,000 soldiers and set sail for the Flemish coast. His plan was to join forces with the rebels in Ghent, but by the time he arrived, the Flemish had already been defeated. Undeterred, Despenser continued his campaign, quickly capturing the towns of Gravelines, Dunkirk, and Berberg. He then laid siege to Ypres, but the attack failed, and he was forced to retreat. As Despenser moved his army into Picardy, he faced a new challenge. The French, led by the powerful Duke of Coucy, were preparing to counterattack. Coucy was a seasoned warrior, known for his bravery and strategic mind. Despenser's army was divided, with a significant portion under the command of Sir Hugh Calveley, a veteran knight who refused to follow Despenser any further. With his forces weakened and a superior French army closing in, Despenser made the wise decision to retreat to Berberg and fortify the town. The French laid siege to Berberg, and the situation quickly turned into a stalemate. Instead of launching a fierce assault, the French decided to wait out the defenders. The siege became a grand spectacle, with knights and nobles from across Europe gathering to participate in jousts and tournaments. The Duke of Coucy, in particular, made a grand entrance, riding a magnificent horse and leading a retinue of other horses adorned with his family's heraldic symbols. His presence was a reminder of the chivalric ideals that still held sway in the 14th century. After 4 months of waiting, the siege was finally resolved through the mediation of the Duke of Brittany. Despenser was allowed to leave Berberg, but he returned to England in disgrace. His campaign had been a disaster, and it did little to improve England's reputation on the battlefield. The failure of the Bishop of Norwich became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of overreaching and the importance of experience and strategy in warfare. While the English army was licking its wounds, the French were not idle. The Duke of Coucy, a key figure in the French court, was tasked with a new mission: to rescue the Duke of Anjou, who was struggling to maintain his position in Italy. Anjou's situation was dire. He had been robbed of a significant sum of money by one of his own nobles, Pierre de Craon, who had squandered the funds in Venice before fleeing back to France. Crayon's theft was a major blow to Anjou's campaign, and it raised questions about the loyalties within the French nobility. Despite the challenges, the French king and council were determined to support Anjou. In the spring of 1384, Coucy was given command of a new expedition. He assembled an army of about 9,000 men, including 1,500 mounted knights, and set out for Italy. Before leaving, Coucy founded a daily mass at the Abbey of St. Maynard, ensuring that he and his successors would be remembered in prayer. This was a common practice among knights of the time, a way to seek divine favor and protection for their endeavors. Coucy's journey to Italy was a complex one, involving negotiations with various Italian powers and a careful balancing of alliances. He first traveled to Avignon to consult with Pope Clement, and then crossed the Alps via the Mont Cenis Pass. Upon arriving in Milan, he was welcomed by Bernabo Visconti, the ruler of the city. Bernabo invited Coucy to enter Milan with 200 of his highest-ranking companions, but Coucy, being cautious, brought 600 men. The reception was lavish, but the large number of men caused a bridge to break, a minor setback that did not dampen the celebrations. While in Milan, Coucy had to navigate the intricate web of Italian politics. The region was a patchwork of city-states and principalities, each with its own interests and rivalries. Bernabo Visconti, the powerful ruler of Milan, was at odds with his nephew, Gian Galeazzo, who ruled in Pavia. Gian Galeazzo was a complex figure, known for his intelligence and political cunning. He resented Bernabé's influence and was wary of the French intervention. Coucy, aware of the tensions, decided not to meet Gian Galeazzo, likely to avoid complicating the mission. As Coucy moved south, he encountered the Florentines, who were deeply concerned about his presence. Florence was a powerful city-state, known for its wealth and cultural achievements, but it was also wary of outside interference. The Florentine chancellor, Coluccio Salutati, a respected statesman and humanist, tried to win Coucy over with diplomatic assurances. Coucy, however, was not entirely trustworthy. While he promised to respect Florentine neutrality, his troops began to pillage and loot the surrounding countryside, causing widespread fear and anger. The Florentines, realizing they were being deceived, sent more envoys to protest the actions of Coucy's men. Coucy, with a mix of charm and arrogance, blamed the locals for resisting his troops and demanded a large tribute from Florence and Siena. The Florentine government, in a state of crisis, debated whether to pay or resist. In the end, they opted to pay a smaller sum to Siena while refusing to pay Coucy directly. Coucy, undeterred, continued his campaign. He set his sights on the city of Arezzo, which the Florentines had been trying to annex. Arezzo was a strategic location, and Coucy saw an opportunity to gain a foothold in the region. He negotiated with the exiled lords of Pietramala, who promised to assist him in capturing the city. The Florentines, realizing the threat, sent reinforcements to Arezzo and warned the governor, Jacopo Caracciolo, to prepare for an attack. On the night of September 28-29, Coucy launched a surprise assault on Arezzo. He divided his forces, sending one group to create a noisy diversion while he led the main attack on the San Clement Gate. The French troops stormed through the gates, and a fierce battle ensued. The defenders, led by Caracciolo, fought valiantly but were eventually overwhelmed by the superior numbers of the French. The lords of Pietramala reclaimed their homes, and Coucy claimed the city in the name of King Louis of Naples, furthering the Angevin cause in Italy. The capture of Arezzo was a significant victory for Coucy, but it also marked the end of his Italian campaign. The mission had achieved its primary goal of supporting Anjou, but it had also exposed the complexities of Italian politics and the challenges of maintaining control in a region filled with rival powers. Coucy, a master of both strategy and diplomacy, had once again proven his worth as a knight and a leader. The story of the Bishop of Norwich and the Duke of Coucy is a reminder of the unpredictable nature of medieval warfare. It shows how a bold but inexperienced leader can lead a campaign to disaster, while a seasoned and cunning warrior can navigate the treacherous waters of politics and warfare to achieve his goals. In the end, it is the stories of these men and their actions that continue to captivate us, offering a glimpse into a world where chivalry and conflict were two sides of the same coin.